Ciao a tutti, oggi parliamo del fatto che l'ex presidente degli Stati Uniti, Barack Obama, sembrerebbe essere gay. Adesso qui c'è un signore che fa un'intervista con Tucker Carlson e dice che nel 99 lui ha avuto un paio di incontri interessanti di sesso e droga con l'allora sconosciuto Obama. Adesso vediamo un po' Tucker come inizia la sua intervista, fa un piccolo preambolo, poi ve lo traduco. Facciamo qualche ragionamento.
In retrospect, it's pretty amazing that Barack Obama got as far as he did. In 2004, the summer of 2004, Barack Obama gave the keynote address at the Democratic Convention in Boston. And when he walked to the podium, probably only a small percentage of people in the room knew how to pronounce his name. He was totally unheard of. No one knew Barack Obama. At the time, he was a state senator in Illinois.
Quindi dice, nel 2004, quando ha fatto questo primo intervento a livello nazionale, nessuno sapeva chi fosse, quindi lui era un senatore per l'Illinois e dice, è amazing, è incredibile come sia arrivato poi a diventare presidente degli Stati Uniti.
4 years later, he once again spoke to the Democratic Convention, but this time as the nominee. Meteoric doesn't begin to describe it. How did this happen? Well, the outlines are fairly well known, though rarely talked about. A small group of Democratic donors, mostly in Chicago, decided that Barack Obama was their guy. He was the vessel for their ambitions. They paid for his campaign. They paved the way for his rise. He spent 2 years pointlessly in the United States Senate preparing to run for president in 2008, and of course, in the end, he won. But the question was, who was this man? Where did he come from? What did he spend?
Vabbè, parla un po' della sua storia, di come ha ricevuto i soldi per la campagna elettorale, eccetera, però dice la cosa più importante è ma chi è questa persona? Da dove è venuta? Voi non so se sapete, ma una delle cospirazioni più grosse che ci sono riguardo Barack Obama è che lui in realtà sia nato in Africa e non in America. E quindi se questo fosse vero, lui non poteva essere eletto come presidente degli Stati Uniti, ok?
His life doing before he became president of the United States? Well, the news media, whose job it is to answer those questions, spent the entire 2008 campaign trying to keep you from knowing the answers. By election day, most Americans knew only one thing about Barack Obama, other than he was handsome and a good communicator: hope and change.
Ok, nel 2008 i mass media stavano praticamente cercando di tenere il pubblico lontano dal fare troppe domande, da cercare di arrivare a delle risposte riguardo chi fosse questa persona, da dove venisse, eccetera. L'unica cosa che sapevano erano questi slogan, che è speranza e cambiamento, che erano gli slogan di Barack.
But they knew nothing about him, his origins, what he believed, and legitimate questions about those facts were turned away, as they often are, with the claim, "That's a conspiracy theory, you're crazy, shut up!" One of the most interesting moments in the 2008 campaign occurred when a man, like Obama himself, came from out of nowhere to recount his experiences with Barack Obama, the man. His name was Larry Sinclair, and he told an amazing story. He said that in 1999, he had encountered Barack Obama in Illinois, had sex with Barack Obama, and then used cocaine with him. Sinclair went on
Quindi
to
questo
make these claims
intervistato già
publicly
aveva
at the
fatto
National
questa
Press Club
dichiarazione
in
nel 2008, quando
Washington,
Barack
to sign
Obama
a
ancora
sworn
non era
affidavit
presidente.
and to take a lie detector test. But he was dismissed. In fact, he was attacked. Obama shills like Ben Smith of Politico batted the claims out without refuting them. They're absurd.
Fu attaccato, fu detto che
followed suit.
era, insomma, che
But the
le sue
claims
dichiarazioni
weren't
erano
absurd.
assurde.
We're not claiming they're true, but they were certainly credible. This was a first-hand account of Barack Obama's behavior by someone who was willing to sign a sworn affidavit to that effect. So the question is, whatever happened to Larry Sinclair? What's his life been like since? That's an interesting story. It turns out Larry Sinclair is still alive. He lives in Mexico. But today, he's in our studio.
Dice, chi è questo Larry Sinclair? Beh, ha avuto una vita interessante, è ancora vivo, vive in Messico.
And we're happy to have him. Larry Sinclair, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Where did you meet Barack Obama?
It was by accident. I was in the Chicago area in '99 for Lee Duke's graduation from the Naval Academy.
Who's Lee Duke?
He's basically my godson.
Okay.
I had hired a limousine service.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you live in Chicago then?
No, I was actually living in Colorado.
Cioè questo è andato a Chicago per la laurea di un suo parente e aveva prenotato una limousine.
Had flown in the night before.
Okay.
So, had hired a limousine service, had made the driver aware that if Lee couldn't leave the base, because once they graduate, some of them actually get their assignments and they're shipping out and they can't leave the base, that I was still interested in going out. And had asked the driver if he knew anybody that was available that might want to show me, Chicago. And he said he did. So
Well, who was the driver?
his name was Jameer Motani. It was with 5-star limo.
So you're just a guy who's in town for the night, and it sounds like you're looking to party, actually. Yeah.
That's
what you're really saying.
Yeah. Well, I was in town for a few nights, but yeah, I was definitely looking.
Praticamente a un certo punto questa persona di famiglia che si graduava in una base militare stava, ok? E non poteva, no, insomma, non poteva uscire, venivano assegnati a dei reparti immediatamente. E quindi lui ha detto, guarda, io prendo sta limousine, ho chiesto all'autista di farmi vedere un po' Chicago e insomma volevo andare a far festa, ok?
To party. And
Did you make that clear to the driver?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was no misunderstanding.
How direct were you about that?
Extremely.
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 Okay.
Yeah. There was no doubt what I was looking for.
Quindi l'intervistatore gli chiede quanto chiaro tu hai spiegato all'autista quello che volevi fare. Extreme, estremamente chiaro, non c'era nessun dubbio a riguardo.
Okay.
And he picked me up at my hotel in Gurney and drove into Chicago, pulled up in a bar outside, and there's this guy that's introduced to me as Barack Obama. It was literally that casual.
È stato portato in un bar e incontra sto ragazzo in maniera completamente casuale che gli viene introdotto, gli viene presentato come Barack
Had
Obama.
you ever heard of him?
No.
Did the
Tu non
driver
l'aveva
know
mai
him?
sentito?
The driver definitely knew him because the driver said that he was a friend.
L'autista era amico di Barack
What?
Obama.
How would the
Quindi
driver
lo
be
conosceva.
friends with Barack Obama?
I only found out later, dealing with a reporter from Bloomberg News, that apparently the limousine company had been doing business with Tony Resco, that at the time was somehow affiliated
Was
with
in
Barack
Obama's-
Obama.
Cioè lo conosceva perché dice che il gruppo di limousine che lui aveva affittato faceva business con sto Tony Resco che era un affiliato, insomma, una persona amica di Barack Obama.
Orbit.
Yeah.
Yes. Interesting. So he knew Barack Obama, and in his view, Barack Obama liked the same kind of partying you were looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. So sex and drugs, in other words.
Well, the sex part I wasn't so sure about until, of course, you make your move, but it became obvious very quick.
E quindi gli ha chiesto, quindi praticamente questo autista conosceva un po' questo giro di sesso e droga. Ha detto, beh, del sesso non ero così convinto finché tu non fai la prima mossa.
The coke part I thought was interesting because of the way that I had brought it up.
So I'm stepping on your story. So you pull, and I apologize. So you pull up to this bar. The driver is basically scouting some dude for you to hang out with.
Correct.
There's this guy, Barack Obama. Have you ever heard of Barack Obama?
Never. We're having drinks. I mentioned the fact that I could use something to wake up. I was extremely
Ha detto, si è messo a bere con Barack Obama, gli ha detto che gli piacerebbe utilizzare qualcosa per svegliarsi un po' perché era stanco del viaggio.
exhausted.
So you went into the bar.
Yes, sir.
What kind of bar was it?
I'm trying to remember. I've been trying to remember the name. I know that the glasses had 3 X's on them.
Non mi ricordo il nome del bar, però i bicchieri avevano 3X. Me lo ricordo perché ne ho preso uno per portarlo a casa.
Because I remember taking one home
Ne ho preso
for
uno
a friend of mine.
per un amico.
But I mean, generally characterize it? Was it,
It was
working class
up,
bar,
no, it
gay
was
bar, strip
upscale.
bar?
It was upscale, quiet. Wasn't really that really didn't have a lot of energy to
Ok,
it. It was more relaxed.
sta descrivendo un po' il bar, ha detto non aveva molta energia, upscaling vuol dire insomma comunque abbastanza per ricchi, però tranquillo,
More
un
like a
posto tranquillo,
lounge as opposed to
una specie di lounge.
somewhere where people would go and get loud and crazy,
Yeah.
which made it easier to talk. But like I said, when I brought up the fact that I could use something to wake up, he immediately knew what I was referring to, had made it clear that I was looking for coke, and I really was, and had made the suggestion that he knew where we could get it, and we left to go get it.
Interesting.
Quindi ha detto era un posto tranquillo, però comunque facilitava la conversazione. Poi a un certo punto gli ho detto sta cosa che mi serviva qualcosa per svegliarmi. Lui ha capito immediatamente che parlavo di cocaina e ce ne siamo andati perché lui sapeva dove prenderla.
Interesting. Did he say what he did for a living?
No. I had no idea that he was a representative in the Illinois House.
Non
I
aveva
had no idea he was in
nessuna idea che questo era un personaggio del Senato
politics.
dell'Illinois.
I just knew that he was supposedly married and at the time was going through some issues with the marriage.
Ok, ha detto che all'epoca era sposato e stava andando incontro a dei problemi matrimoniali.
He said that?
That was made clear. Yeah.
Huh. Did he say what kind of issues?
No.
Do you remember? No. So you said, I'm looking for someone to wake up. He knows you're referring to cocaine. I know where to get it. What happens next?
We get back in the limo. The driver takes us wherever it is that Barack had instructed him to take us. I had given Barack $250 to pay for coke. He gets out, comes back. I start putting a line on a CD tray.
Praticamente questo signore ha dato a Barack Obama $250 per comprare la cocaina. Si sono fatti dentro la limousine, lui ha detto ho fatto una linea di coca su un CD, su una confezione di un CD-ROM.
Tray to snort.
And you're in the limo.
Yep.
Driving or parked?
No, the driver's driving.
Yep.
I start to put a line on a CD tray, and I just happen to notice that he pulls something else out of his pocket. And next thing I know, he's got a little pipe and he's smoking. So I don't have an issue with it. I mean, some people smoke, some people snort.
Quindi dice Barack Obama la cocaina l'ha usata fumandola, ha tirato fuori una specie di pipa.
Smoking the cocaine.
Yes. So as I'm doing a line, I just start. This is the part where you kind of make your move to see where things are going. So I just started rubbing my hand along his thigh to see.
Io ho iniziato a muovere la mia mano sulle sue cosce
Where it was going,
per vedere dove saremmo arrivati.
and it went the direction I had intended it to go.
E andò nella direzione che io pensavo sarebbe andata.
So the night became somewhat active sexually and drug-wise in the limo.
E iniziarono a fare sesso, la notte diventò sessualmente attiva con la droga anche nella limousine.
So you hit on him. Did he seem shocked by that?
Not at all.
Yeah. I mean, if
Mi
you're
chiede, ti è sembrato scioccato Obama che tu ci hai provato? Assolutamente no.
smoking crack with a stranger in the back of a limo, like, you got to imagine things might go crazy places.
Well, not only imagine it, I look at it this way. I've done a lot of crazy things in my lifetime. I'm a pretty good judge of character, and I pretty much know whether or not I can move in a certain direction with an individual. I didn't feel that I was going in the wrong direction. I just wasn't so sure how much I could trust the
Ok, ha detto io ho fatto un sacco di cose particolari nella mia vita e penso di avere di essere bravo a giudicare le situazioni, quindi riesco a capire se la situazione va in una certa direzione o no. Solo non so fino a che punto sarebbe andata in quella direzione.
individual
Right.
at first. And that was probably one of my bigger concerns. But the fact that I was already becoming somewhat buzzed, you kind of throw caution to the wind.
You weren't sure you could trust the individual. What does that mean?
He, when you meet someone out of the blue and you go to a level that you're doing drugs with, or you're giving money to purchase drugs, or even for sexual activity, you have to be sure that you can trust them. And when I say trust, I mean that you're not going to end up being robbed, or that you're not going to end up having a knife stuck into you,
Right.
you know, from one direction or another, or that you're not going to pull up somewhere and all of a sudden the car door is going to open and you got 5 people pulling you out of it.
Totally.
That's what I mean when I
Yep.
say trust
Yep.
someone.
Ok, tu devi imparare a essere sicuro cioè capire quella persona, essere abbastanza sicuro che stai in una situazione sicura, cioè che non verrai derubato, non ti pugnaleranno, oppure che non fermeranno la macchina da una parte e poi salgono 5 persone a derubarti, insomma.
So you start rubbing his leg, and I mean, I think, I'll just be totally blunt with you, like a man who's not into gay sex would be like, whoa, 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 settle down.
Trust me, if it was something that you were not interested in,
Yeah.
and you're right, I've had guys that I read wrong that would literally try to break your hand.
Ha detto, credimi, io so che avevo ragione, perché in passato mi è capitato che ho provato delle avance su qualcuno, su un uomo, e questo ha praticamente cercato di rompermi il braccio.
For sure.
If you went in that route. So it's not like this was something that he wasn't into. It's
Yeah.
not something that he was shocked by.
Yeah.
Shocked by, you don't get excited and you don't unbutton your pants and you don't just sit there and let it happen.
Quindi sicuramente non era sorpreso, ha detto, sicuramente se eri sorpreso da sta cosa non ti saresti aperto i pantaloni e fare in modo, dare la possibilità a questa persona di iniziare a fare sesso, insomma.
Yeah.
So it definitely wasn't Barack's first time.
Sicuramente
That
non
much
è la sua prima volta.
I'm absolutely certain of. And I would almost be willing to bet you it wasn't his last.
So, so you performed oral sex on
I
Barack
did.
Obama. You did. In the driver's up front,
Yep.
and he's cool with this.
The driver has the partition up.
Ha detto, tu hai fatto sesso orale con Barack? Sì, l'ho fatto. E il guidatore, l'autista stava lì? Sì, l'autista aveva quel separé, no? Che chiudono e aprono nelle limousine, quindi non vedeva niente.
He didn't have a problem with it. He didn't put it down for any reason.
I mean, he kind of set up the whole thing for this in the first place.
Exactly. And I have a funny feeling he had no bones to pick with it as far as what took place.
Yeah. So what happened after?
Afterwards, I actually went back to my hotel. I had specifically asked that he drop Barack off first, but for some reason he and Barack chose that they would drop me off at the hotel first and then he would take Barack. So Barack actually made the drive out to Gurnee, which is a suburb outside of Chicago, to the hotel for me to be dropped off.
What hotel was that?
It was the Comfort Inn in Gurnee.
Ooh, it sounds depressing.
E ha detto poi a un certo punto, finito tutto, ho chiesto all'autista che si portasse Barack Obama indietro, dovunque dovesse andare. E in realtà entrambi hanno deciso, no, ti portiamo noi al tuo hotel. Adesso sta dicendo il nome dell'hotel a Chicago, vabbè, non è importante.
Well, you have to remember, it was 99.
Yeah. No,
And it was close to the Great Lakes Naval facilities.
yeah.
But I got dropped off. They left. The next day was somewhat interesting because he ends up showing up at my hotel room.
Il giorno successivo è stato interessante perché lui praticamente si è presentato all'hotel.
Which I thought was somewhat weird,
E
but
ho pensato che era un po'
He
strano.
wanted some more. Mm-hmm. So
E lui
when you say he showed
ne voleva ancora, e lui sì.
up, he just
he showed up. I mean, I had no warning. I was in the room. There's a knock on the door. I open the door and he's standing there. And he's standing there with more coke and he comes in.
Io ho aperto la porta, lui stava in piedi dietro la porta, aveva ancora altra cocaina.
And it was just like a quick, rehash or rerun.
È stato un veloce Insomma, l'hanno rifatto velocemente.
from the night before.
Exact same program.
Exact same
Lo,
program.
Was he
lo
smoking
stesso
again?
programma del giorno prima.
So Barack Obama smokes crack and then you perform oral
Yep.
sex on him.
Ok, Barack Obama fuma crack e tu fai sesso orale su di lui.
And like I said, the only reason I had come out about it is I had reached out to the campaign even in 2007, only because I saw all these kids getting excited about it.
Okay, wait. So
Ha detto, io sono uscito fuori all'epoca quando stavo facendo la campagna per presidente perché stavo vedendo che tutta sta gente era eccitata riguardo a lui come candidato, eccetera.
how did that end? Like,
Same way. You get off, you finish smoking, you leave. But
what do you mean by that?
well, in my life at that point, you made it clear I had already been around.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So you know when people are doing things because they actually really enjoy it, or they're sincere, or they're looking, for
Yeah.
a connection, or they're doing something because they're looking for an in, or they're looking for a hook, or it's a game.
Yeah.
So for me, I felt that it was a game for him.
Ok, all'epoca io già ero abbastanza navigato, quindi mi rendevo conto se una persona faceva quelle cose perché amava farle o se per essi, insomma, per questi era semplicemente un gioco e per lui, per Barack Obama, era semplicemente un gioco.
It was like, okay, what am I going to get out of it? Or is there something I can get out of it other than just, the sexual part?
Right.
And lucky for me, I wasn't going back to Chicago anytime soon, so it really didn't matter.
So you were left with a bad taste in your mouth.
Something, yeah. Yeah.
Ha detto, quindi tu quando l'hai tirato fuori sei stato deriso. Ho detto, sì.
Did you talk to him again?
I did not. In fact,
And did you have any idea, even though you had sex with him twice, you did cocaine with him, watched him smoke crack twice, you had no idea who he was?
I had no idea who he was until I'm sitting in my house in Tequila, Nayarit, Mexico in 2004, and he walked on that stage
In Boston.
in the DNC convention, and I literally hit the floor. I just hit the floor and was
Wait, so you're watching the Democratic Convention from Mexico?
I was
and the guy that smoked crack in your comfort inn with you?
I was laughing so hard.
And you
Ha detto, io non l'ho più rivisto e praticamente non sapevo niente di lui finché non l'ho visto in seguito che stava parlando a queste conferenze dei democratici e io stavo in Messico a casa mia e sono caduto a terra ridendo.
were sure it was him.
I was absolutely positive.
How?
I don't forget people I've met. I don't forget people I have spent time with. I just don't.
And just to restate, because I think you affirmed this, but he used his real name when you were with him.
Yes.
Ha detto, tu sei sicuro? Bla bla bla. Sì, guarda, io semplicemente non mi scordo delle persone con le quali sono stato.
Did he call himself Barack or Barry?
Barack.
Lui all'epoca si era già presentato come Barack.
And so did the driver. And that's why at first when
l'autista
everybody
l'aveva
was
chiamato Barack.
referring to him as Barry, I just didn't understand or catch on. Because like I said, I didn't know that much about him other than the fact that, hey, you hook up, today it's Grinder. Back then it was,
The limo driver.
yeah, a limo driver or a bartender,